Hi, my name's Penelope Young, and today I'm going to be talking to you about the Goodman Wattie Limited versus the Federal Commissioner of Tax. This is a federal court case of Australia which occurred on the 20th of May 1991. So just to start off with, I'm just going to go through the background into the Goodman Wattie case, followed by the legislation, and we'll also have a look at the rulings and the implications that this case has on future taxpayers. There's also a reference list at the end of this presentation. Now, Goodman Wattie carried on a business across multiple divisions, one of these divisions being their poultry division. In 1980, the company employed Dr. Richard Watson, a veterinarian and technical manager, who also had a keen interest in the application of scientific research regarding the development of monoclonal antibodies. Monoclonal antibodies are an aggressive agent to a particular foreign substance or toxin. Through the introduction of these antibodies to a person or animal's bloodstream, if and when a chemical reaction occurs, this indicates the presence of a particular disease. Leading up to 1980, research into monoclonal antibodies was limited in Australia, with some carried out through the Queensland Institute of Technology. In 1981, the Institute wished to establish a monoclonal antibody development centre with the purpose to develop a commercially viable product which would be used for therapeutic, diagnostic and industrial applications in both medicinal and veterinary fields. The prospect of government funding was available to the Institute. However, in order to meet the criteria, there was a requirement to demonstrate the research project was in public interest. After many discussions between Dr. Watson and the Queensland Institute of Technology's Mr. Wyatt, the conclusion was made in the long run, research into the development of the antibodies could result in a new era of diagnostic technology, and the research could also result in great commercial potential. As a result, Goodman Wattie entered into a contractual agreement to fund the Queensland Institute of Technology's School of Health to establish and maintain a research and development centre for the production of monoclonal antibodies and related products for commercial development. An agreement was signed on the 14th of August 1981, and it stated the company would contribute $200,000 per annum over a 5-year period. By October 1982, research had proven that these antibodies had commercial appeal, and the first of its products, Girokit, a test for dog heartworm, would be ready for sale by December 1982. The decision was then made to set up a commercial and development centre at a separate premise in Slacks Creek, Brisbane. This premises was also within vicinity of the poultry division's head office. A factory lease agreement was entered into in November 1982, and in the months of November and December were occupied by cleaning and preparing the factory for use. By January 1983, actual production had commenced. The case of Goodman Wattie questioned whether the payments made by Goodman Wattie Limited during the income tax periods of 1981 to 82 and 1982 to 83 were deductible under the Income Tax Assessment Act 1936, Sections 51(1) and Sections 73A1. The Income Tax Assessment Act 36, Section 51(1) has since been superseded by the Income Tax Assessment Act 1997, Sections 8.1, General Deductions. However, the legislation still remains the same. Section 8.1 states you can deduct from your assessable income any loss or outgoing to the extent it is incurred in carrying on a business for the purpose of gaining or producing assessable income. Section 8.12a, however, states the loss or outgoing cannot be of capital or of capital nature. Section 3673A allows for a deduction for scientific research if the payments made during the income year were incurred by the taxpayer carrying on a business. Allowable deductions under 73A include payments to an approved research for scientific research related to the business, an approved research institute with the object of undertaking scientific research related to the class of business in which the business belongs, and expenditure of capital nature on the scientific research. The Commissioner submitted that the expenditure incurred by Goodman Wattie were not allowable under Sections 3651(1), as the company had not commenced producing activity until it had located to its Slacks Creek premise in 1982. Therefore, the expenditure was capital in nature. The Commissioner also submitted that the contributions to the Queensland Institute of Technology's Research Centre were not deductible under Section 73A, as the company at the time was not carrying on a business. The court agreed that the business had not commenced until the company had moved to the Slacks Creek premise in November 1982. Therefore, the expenditure prior to this date was not deductible. In determining, Hill J took into account the characterisation of the business itself. As Goodman Wattie had presented itself as carrying on a business for the sale and manufacture of monoclonal antibody products, then the business did not commence until November 1982. Hill J compared the resolution to the softwood pulp and paper versus the FCT of 1976, whereby expenditure into the feasibility studies was not deductible, as the company had not committed itself to a project, nor had it committed itself to commencing one. Therefore, the expenditure did not form part of the costs of the trading operations. He proceeded, the key to determining whether the research expenditure incurred by Goodman Wattie is deductible relies on the company's commitment to carrying on a business. Therefore, in this case, prior to November 1982, the activities of the research centre were provisional, as the commencement of the business to market and produce the monoclonal antibodies would only ensue once the research had proven successful. In concluding whether the payments was capital or expense in nature, comparisons were also drawn against the Sun Newspaper Limited versus FCT, Unsworth versus Vickers, and Ampol Exploration Limited versus the FCT. In these cases, expenditure occurred was deductible due to the nature of the business, and it was sufficiently evident that the research and development were necessary into carrying on the business activities. The key concept of the Goodman Wattie case is that the taxpayer should show sufficient commitment to carrying on a business when it incurs the expenditure relating to research and development activities. Unlike Sun Newspapers' Onsworth and Ampol exploration, Goodman Field Wattie was unable to claim the deductions between 1981 and November 1982, as it was determined that the intent to commence operating activities would only occur after the research had been successful. Tax Determination 9544 states, research and development activities are allowable under the Income Tax Assessment Act 1997, Section 8.1, and the Income Tax Assessment Act 1936, Section 73AA, if the research activities are conducted for the purpose of developing new products for the use of income-producing activities of the business. Accordingly, research expenditure is not deductible if it is incurred and enables the taxpayer to commence to carry on a business or to branch out into a new business.